Very good.
Well, welcome to another exciting show. And as it's the 4th of July, which is American Independence Day, I thought of playing that marvellous introduction to our great and gracious leader. I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, the leader that never
I
was.
mentioned, but before we start, we've got a few call-outs to do. And first thing, I mentioned it's the American Independence Day, 4th of July, but it's also the first day, the anniversary, that Stand in the Park in Cheshunt was started on the 4th of July last year. It's 1 year old, so happy birthday.
Yeah.
And also, we got a couple of call-outs to do. And I better mention, you're probably looking for Deborah Hatswell, and she's not here. She's doing lines at the moment, and she's in detention because she overlooked it, and she's not over till 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whoops. So she said she'll be on next week. So I
Right.
said, oh, then. So she's forgiven for that.
Perfect.
You know. Yes, I'm going to come up there with a ruler and wrap my knuckles, you know. And that's
Yeah.
And also, as our guests need no introduction, it's Yorkshire Deb and Shannon, or Shannon Yorkshire Deb, all the way from California. No, not Yorkshire Deb, but it's only Shannon from California. And we got these call-outs to do. And number one is, we start with Deb. You're feeling a bit Tom and Dick tonight, Deb, ain't you?
Yeah.
So I wish you better. You know, and I think it's some bug that's going around because I think Colin had it, Ron had it, I think John had it as well.
Well, John, actually, he got better really quickly when I reminded him to take sulfur.
Yeah.
MSM, so it worked.
Sulfur, that's an idea. Because when I had the two bob, when I had a stomach upset, I was going to do 2 bob bits, but when I had a stomach upset, my mum always used to give me scrambled egg, and that always did the trick. I don't know why. It's always scrambled egg on toast. I felt a bit better after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eggs are high in sulfur. Maybe that's why I haven't been getting sick. I've been having raw eggs for breakfast every day.
Possibly.
Raw eggs? Is that sort of from the chicken itself, or?
Well, yeah, from chicken. I mean, I don't have a chicken.
You know what I meant to say is the chickens running around you.
No, I wish they were. Maybe next year we'll have some. But last year we were in a place where we got them straight from the chicken. So, but they're pretty. They're locally. They're local though. So yeah.
Oh, you're all right there because they advised us in this country. You got botulism, was it, or something? If you had
yeah, that's nonsense.
Salmonella as well.
Yeah, that's just to keep it. Raw eggs are really good for you. A lot of raw foods are raw meats, and that's just one way to scare us away from them.
Yeah,
scare us away from being healthy. So
before we
go, get our show shut down for medical misinformation, though. So maybe we need to stop now.
We've got to be a bit careful about it. But we giving thoughts to Deb first of all. So we got
that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Remember, positive thoughts. Leeds. It's just outside Foppen Hall.
Yes.
About 100 miles from that Foppen Hall.
Slightly.
Yeah. So I hope she feels better soon.
Thank you.
Feel better.
I've got John from Waltham Abbey, and he's got an ear hole problem. It could be that ear, I don't know. And he's poor sod. He's really been going through it. He's got some infection in his ear hole, and he went along to see Miles, and Miles has been trying to sort it out and that. But he's got narrow ear cavities, and he's getting a little bit better. So I said, right, we're going to have some healing thoughts for John of Waltham. So his ear hole's getting better already. Healing thoughts for Leeds and and also the third thing, I've got to do a call out for Vicky, who does the yoga and Ear Crusher, because our dear charming council is causing them problems, bastards. The council. So I said to him, without further ado, I'll give them an advert. So shall we do it before we kick off? Shall we do it? find a bloody advert. Well, I've lost it somewhere. Where is it?
It'll be
Right,
in there.
it should be there somewhere. Hang on, where is it now? I've lost. Oh, it is. So here we go for Vicky's advert, and good luck because they're having it a bit tough at the moment. So let's have some positive thoughts to Vicky's show. Hello. If you don't want to meet people like this, dressed in leotards and acting strangely, or if you don't want people that do things like this, then why not go along to Yoga Hearts? You can see the website just here, advertised at the bottom of the page, for jolly nice people, or telephone 07463 021 512. And remember to tell Vicky, who runs the class, where you saw this advert. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, because they actually they give a little bit of money to sponsor one of our shows. So really nice. They really are the nicest people you could ever wish to meet.
Yeah.
So if you want to go along to yoga and stick 2 fingers up the local council,
Do it.
Go there. So before we start, should we have a quick look in chat, see who's in there?
Yes.
Blimey. We've got a lot this week, haven't we? We've got
a few.
Got this. I don't know who she is.
I'm not sure who she is. She creeps in every now and again.
Yeah, there she comes. And then we got Ralph. Hello,
Evening,
Ralph. Now, I can't call this one out, but it might be. You never know. But I'll be right. Yes. Now we got Ralph again. Here we go. Oh, we got Joe. Hello, Joe. They got V. McCrinnan. Yay! Good evening, Deb, Chris, and all the other lovable weirdos.
Thank you.
I like that one.
High praise.
Compliment.
Yeah, that's a compliment. That is.
It is.
Right, that's it. And then we got.
I've seen normal, and it's frightening.
It is frightening. Yeah, I prefer weird.
Especially the new normal.
Yeah. Evening, Robbie.
Hello, Robbie. And that's about it for the moment. So there we go. So who wants to start? You've got something to speak about this week, Shannon, haven't you? About serious things going on, because this is a good type of program.
Yeah. Well, you wanted to talk about Bigfoot abductions, correct?
Yes, which you never hear about. You hear about Bigfoot, but you don't hear about the abductions.
Well, I know. I mean, I'm not an expert, and I don't know how much I can actually contribute tonight, but I do live in one of the highest Bigfoot sighting areas in our country. We moved here 2 years ago, so we're actually not really that far from the famous video footage. Where this is the picture that I have tonight. It's the avatar from that video footage from Bluff Creek, I think it's called. Yeah, so that's actually like it's close as the crow flies, or maybe as Bigfoot would walk through the wilderness. But if you had to drive there, you just had to go around the mountain. So we're sort of on the other side of the mountain from it. But it's not far for Bigfoot, to go from there to here. And this really close to us, there have been sightings even in recent years. I had my good friend Paul come on some last year, and he told of his own experience with sightings.
Wow.
I mean, I honestly didn't think about Bigfoot until we moved here and met him. I mean, I had a Bigfoot enthusiast friend back in Washington, D.C., but I don't know. We all kind of just humored him. I didn't really take it that seriously. But when I met Paul and he told us about his experience, I'm like, well, I can't really, deny. I mean, he's obviously not seems like a stable person, like a rational person, and he didn't believe in it before he saw it. So, and then when John, Hamer told me that gorillas weren't discovered, technically by our scientists or our, mainstream, community until the 1950s, they weren't acknowledged to be real, and that Bigfoot and gorillas were in the same category before that time. So then I thought, well, it could be, even with all the surveillance and everything. I mean, there's still there's wilderness areas that is quite dense, forest. And so I was reading up, there's a really good book called Tribal Bigfoot. It's by David Polides.
David Polides, yeah.
Polides. Okay, sorry. I'm just reading it here. I haven't heard his name, but yeah, so I have that book, and it's focuses on, on our area, really, this part of California, a lot of it. Well, not, there's a whole chapter, a whole section, I should say, for our county, which is Del Norte. And he does say it has one of the highest incidents of sightings. But the other interesting thing about the history of this area is it was settled by miners in the 1800s, and they were coming out for gold at first with the gold rush, and then they started mining other things. So there's this area called French Hill. Have you heard of that, Deb?
No.
Okay, so French Hill is it's like this French Quarter, and they call it out here. And the nearest town to us is called Gasquet. But that's how the locals pronounce it, but it's really Gasquet. It's French. Right. So there were these French, trappers and miners, and so that's why this whole area was called the French Quarter, and then French Hill, and so there were all these abductions that were happening in the 1800s that were not explained. High ratio compared to the population. It was very low population. People knew each other. It wasn't like, even though there's all this wilderness area, there weren't really, as this author points out, abductions, kidnappings was not a crime of the 19th century. It's really a 20th century crime. So at least on the books, they had 18 people had gone missing. And I don't know what the time period was exactly. You have to look in here again. But so it was at least 18 people that were reported missing where they only found one body. And so it's just like this remained this mystery. And the thing is, of course, there were rumors about Bigfoot because there have been sightings in the area for some time. And, the newspapers back then reported on the Bigfoot sightings. They didn't call it Bigfoot then. They called it Wild Man. was the name. So, there's this book actually contains a lot of interesting articles, like directly from the Times, mid 1800s, talking about wild man sightings. And in one case, this is a bit farther south from here, like closer to Santa Monica, really down far south, but in San Joaquin Valley area, I think, in those mountains, there was a report of a commissary that was like a food station, right? Supply station for the trappers and miners, and was being raided for some time. And they thought at first it was like maybe animals, but they set out traps, and it just wasn't. It was looked like there was some intelligent design behind it, a little bit more human than like an animal, in terms of what getting into this. So finally, the person who owned the commissary or ran it saw the Bigfoot. So, and he fled. He was really freaked out. He saw this, hairy kind of, humanoid animal, and very hairy. And he was, about these, most of these reports from the time, they weren't that big. They were like 6 feet tall, was what they were reported as being. But there are Bigfoot that are shorter. Obviously, they're different ages, and they're not always they're not always 10 feet tall or something. They can be about 6 feet tall. And, he was describing it as going down on all four. It was up in a tree. And he actually at first tried to just coax it down and talk to it, but it started grunting and beating its chest and making really scary noises. So he ran off. And when he came back, he saw him getting into the food and stuff. But he was he saw him come out of the tree, onto his all fours and run around that way. And then he just, but he decided to bring his friends back, posse with guns and everything to hunt it down. And they gave chase, and they all, a whole group of men, 4 or 5 men, saw it. But they ended up, because they gave chase, and they ended up actually, even though they had guns, they ended up fleeing. They had dogs too. And the interesting thing is the dogs, when they saw the Bigfoot, wouldn't attack. They were whining. They're really scared. And all the reports of Bigfoot and dogs are that dogs are afraid of it, and I think Bigfoot doesn't like dogs, and there's reports of Bigfoot being aggressive toward dogs, So they saw the wild man, and they and the wild man decided, when it saw everybody coming after it, realized what was going on, is being attacked, took a branch out of a tree and broke it in half and started waving it around over his head like a club, and beating his chest and making all these noises and posturing, standing up on its hind legs. And just, it was such a frightening image to them that even though they had guns, they just all ran.
Yeah.
that's like one of the reports, newspapers from the Times, and it was only one of them. I mean, several people had similar experiences, similarly frightened away. The grunting noises, the weird howling noises, and they've found the prints, and we've had recent sightings in this area. And one that interested me, that's in the book, is I think it was like 2008 or 10 or something, not, terribly long ago. Was a truck driver driving along 199. So 199 is the highway that, I live off of in the wilderness area here. And this is called the Siskiyou Wilderness area where I live and where these sightings are. And so there's a place called Patrick Creek Lodge off of 199. And the owners of Patrick Creek Lodge also have had some Bigfoot experience in terms of noises and weird things happening, which they weren't sure what to make of until they met this man who was a truck driver, in his 20s. And he was driving one night up the highway, and he saw on the side of the road this big hairy man walking, just a man covered in hair, no clothes, nothing. And he decided to pull over, so he pulls over up ahead of the Bigfoot, and he looks in his rearview mirror, and it starts running at him, just running at Charlie. He just got so freaked out, he just left. And and the Patrick Creek Lodge was the nearest place. He was so scared, he just stopped there and came in. He ended up telling the story to the owners, and then they admitted they'd heard had these weird experiences and heard these noises. And so there's all kinds of stories like that. But the abductions are interesting because, they just it's just this unsolved thing, and it didn't. I mean, it'd be nice to think that it stopped in the 1800s, but I mean, people aren't attributing to this to Bigfoot that I've heard, but there are, mushroom foragers out here, and me and my partner being some of the. I mean, we don't do we do it close to home, but it is in the woods, and we do walk, go around and collect them. But like serious mushroom hunters, foragers, they travel all over in the wilderness around here, and I've heard that every year some of them go missing. Like a few mushroom hunters go missing, and they say the rational explanation is that they got disoriented and it was cold and they died of exposure somewhere that nobody could find them. But they're never found. The bodies aren't found, and so we just don't know. We don't know what happens. And I mean, mostly it's you get these conflicting reports that Bigfoot is behaves aggressively, but that's also seems like it could just be defensive aggression. And also just in the native tribes, they called him Hairy Man. There's a native tribe called him Hairy Man, and they saw Hairy Man as a protector, protecting the native people from bears and other threats, and kind of they lived peacefully with Hairy Man. But there were also reports of abductions and even rapes, of native women, a couple of them. One possible, I mean, they don't know, but death attributed to Bigfoot from an attack. But the overall sentiment is that they're mostly peaceful. I don't know what to think. I mean, it sounds like they obviously could be threatening and could harm, I mean, just as humans, and they could be peaceful too as humans. So it all depends on, maybe the individuals and maybe the type of Bigfoot or their motivations or their fear or whatever. I mean, it's like any animal, any animal attack, it's probably not their first, it's not in their best interest to go after us and abduct us and kill us. But I mean, I guess it could happen for whatever reason, but so still something to be wary of. And they seem to be generally, even besides that one report of an abduction and a rape where women supposedly gave birth to a half, a very hairy baby.
Right.
I gotta look that up in the book. I forget the details of that. But apart from that, they seem to be pretty, a lot of kids have seen them. And they're more approachable with children. They don't see them as a threat, and also women, they see as less threatening. And there are stories in the book here too, also in this area, of children having seen Bigfoot. And one, I think in particular, it seems like some of them, almost like when you get struck by lightning, if it happens once, it probably happens again. There's, once you see a Bigfoot, you're more inclined to see a Bigfoot later or something. It's the same person. There's a story where he saw it when he was pretty young. He was camping somewhere with his family, went off on his own, whatever, and met Bigfoot. And Bigfoot was actually like kind of interacting, with the kid. He comes back to camp, tells everybody about it. Of course, they don't believe him. And, then I think he finally, if they went to look, the Bigfoot's gone, but the thing is, and then the boy actually, I guess later on, just sort of questioned himself, even though he saw it, just because, you're told it's not real.
Yeah.
Really young, but then I guess he met Bigfoot again later on in his life. So, it was real, obviously.
I see.
But so I don't know. I mean, it's hard. How do you, how can we ever prove that it's a Bigfoot abducting people if we never find the bodies and you don't know where Bigfoot lives and you can't, I mean, so.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, where I live, it's famous for badgers. I haven't seen a badger at all, really, but it is famous because the local council as a logo as a badger. Well, they must die, but I've never seen the corpse of a cat. Well, I've seen one that's been run over. That's
the only badgers I've ever seen are dead ones.
Yeah, dead ones by the side of the road, but that's it. But so I haven't seen the skeleton of a ship of badger. And there's loads of them. And rabbits. Do you see skeletons of rabbits? No. But there's loads of rabbits around.
Right.
But the strange thing is that there seems to be friendly Bigfoot and not very friendly ones.
Exactly.
Laura, you may know about this one, Shannon. I think it was in California where a chap was out. He was very experienced in the wild, and he had an accident in the river, and he broke his leg, and he was dragged out by this Bigfoot. He was terrified, and a family came out of them, lit a fire, and fed him. And when the rescue party came to rescue him, they said it was impossible with his broken leg to have arranged things and got a fire and got food.
Wow.
In that way. And he said he thanks Bigfoot for saving his life. He said because they lit a fire for him. So they were quite intelligent. They knew how to light a fire.
Right.
And they gave him food. So and he was but I mean, we've got a lot in chat at the moment.
Right. But let me say one thing about fires, because the other story in the book that I was just refreshing my memory about last night was that, see, I don't know, I wonder, well, there's probably different species of them too. And maybe but it sounds like there definitely are, because the way they're described can really vary depending on the region.
Yeah.
Or maybe different races, you could say, just like with humans. But I wonder if some are more intelligent than others, or some know about fire and some don't, or they learn from us, because there are reports of them being really interested in campfires and fascinated by it, right? So in one case, there was a hunter, and he was, and this was in the 1800s again, I think 1860s, and he wrote into a newspaper. They reported in the newspaper, he's like, I know that this, hey, the wild man is real because I saw it, and this is what happened. I was at this camp. This is again in California, in our area, a little south of here, I think. But he was, out hunting, and he was camping, and he had gone away from his camp just to come back and see the, hairy man or wild man at his camp. And he saw, first he found tracks. He saw evidence. He came back, saw that somebody had played with the fire ring, so something was suspicious about that to him. And he noticed it because he's a hunter. So he notices these things. And then he found some prints nearby. So he decided to wait and hide himself in, somewhere where he figured would be the best spot given where the tracks were and everything, and wait to see if it came back. And he had a fire going time. So it came back, I guess, he saw the, Bigfoot come back. And I guess Bigfoot he first came out to the fire. He took a stick, put it in the fire, waved it around until it went out. It was he was really interested in it. And then he made a whistling noise. He said the kind of whistle where you put two fingers and, in your mouth and under your tongue, and, and it looked like a female Bigfoot came out to join him from the bushes, and he showed her. He did it for her, he showed her demonstration with the fire, they were having a great time. And then he went off again. So he was how he saw it. He watched them. They didn't see him, so he was able to watch them. There've been other reports like that where people were able to hide and see the Bigfoot, watch them play in the water, play in the lake. Just also they've been seen at the ocean, collecting mussels and digging for clams too.
Right.
So they seem to, the research is showing that they seem to prefer, generally they're they'll be seen more around 2,000 feet in the woods, but they also are always near a water source, creek or river.
Yeah.
They stay close within, by a water source, but they also like to be close to, a lot of them like to be close to the ocean too, like within so many miles of the ocean. So they do seem to forage at the ocean when, places they think it's safe. And there's a lot of stretches of empty beach here.
Oh, yeah.
Wild. I mean, and a lot of forests coming right up to the beach, like, so state lands and everything. So it's definitely, yeah. Anyway, you want to go into chat, Chris? I think there's a lot of.
This is fascinating because there's actually V. He's taken the words out of my mouth because sort of, because I was going to ask whether there's any links between these cattle mutilations.
Oh, right.
Bigfoot, because they're happening all around the world. And even when I was at school, which was a long time ago, I think Queen Victoria was on the throne then. No, I'm only joking. But there was the horse slasher, and it was all over the newspapers. It was a madman slashing a horse. Well, no, because these animal mutilations, it's very like surgically, it's actually precise. You would have their part of their jaw removed, their eyes removed, and the precision that it's done, I wonder if it could be a sort of a breed of Bigfoot that's more intelligent. I wonder.
I mean, it doesn't totally, to me, it doesn't really match the behavior of Bigfoot that people to witness, because in one case, like this, one of these men in these stories witnessed the Bigfoot going through his bag of game he killed himself, and just taking these squirrels and just stuffing them in his mouth, ripping them apart, ripping it all. I mean, just, very brutally eating them and very messily. And I mean, they just seem like they just grab stuff and shove it in their mouths and, rip it apart. I mean, it's hard to imagine them using like precision tools, especially tools that don't even make sense.
Well, they wouldn't be able to. I was looking at Richard D. Hall on richplanet.net, and he was saying that even the top surgeons today with the equipment and that, they would not be able to match the precision of this.
That's why I think that was been attributed to aliens or something, or I mean, or technology. I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I bet these aliens are just the elite with their technologies they've hidden from us, and they're doing their weird sacrifices, and you know. I mean, it's probably just Bill Gates's family. Sorry.
That's right, our dear gracious leader.
I hope
you saw the introduction. It's nothing to do with him, was it?
Bill Bates, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
But actually, here's B. McCrillen's one. He says, "Are the Bigfoot a problem with predating on livestock where Shannon is?"
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure because there isn't a lot of livestock around here.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, some of our chickens were killed. And we weren't really sure why. I mean, we thought maybe a hawk in one case or whatever. I mean, I think I've heard of them taking chickens and stuff. I mean, this isn't our chickens now, but I was in a farm last year in the woods here. So it's the only one I know of around at all. It's very small. But they had, I will tell you a story about living there because there was one night where several guests heard some noises they thought were from Bigfoot. And I didn't hear. So the layout is like, it's 150 acres. It's up a steep terrain and like there's like Airbnb accommodations, little houses, tiny houses.
Yeah.
And my partner and I were living in one kind of up the road farther. So we were too far off to have heard it and we weren't witnesses ourselves. However, somebody we trust who was living with us at the time was down at the common, area near the guests. And she heard something. With somebody else, another witness in the kitchen that they just described as an inhuman growling noise of some kind, right? And another guest further down from them also heard it that night. And that guest actually did have some experience or knowledge of Bigfoot, and he thought it sounded like Bigfoot.
Right.
So we had people in another occasion, it was actually maybe within the same week. So I think we had activity that week. a guest was staying. They had a little tree house there, and they were staying in the tree house, and they couldn't sleep all night because of this thumping and like pounding right below them or on. They felt like it was something was hitting the tree, and there was all this noise. And they kept coming out and looking and couldn't find anything. Tried to go back to sleep, all night long, just like. And it was like they said it was like. They couldn't even describe it, just like this crazy jackhammer noise or something, something like that was a tremor in the earth. I mean, it's just very powerful.
Yeah.
And I've heard occasional noises that I can't explain that, and I think this is a natural tendency when we can't explain something, we just forget about it pretty quickly. Like we kind of just push it aside. So there was this time soon after we moved here where we are now, and also remote, off grid, in the woods, and like this house we were in hadn't been lived in a long time. So it's possible Bigfoot would come around there until we started, we moved in.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of a lot of weird noises the first week, and it might have been them sort of communicating with each other or trying to scare us, or I don't know, but like Sam at one point, I thought he had made the noise, but it didn't make sense. There was a weird kind of crashing noise. It wasn't, I mean, we have trees fall, and so there's that noise, but it wasn't that. And I thought he must be doing something weird at the creek, because when he came back and found out he wasn't even there, or he was inside or something, and I'm like, just these weird. But another time, I literally heard, like, the weirdest thing is when you hear these metallic noises, like you hear metallic noise in the woods where there's no possible source that would make a noise of like metal hitting something, or like a hollow metal noise hitting something. Like I thought I heard like a metal crashing noise, or like
clang. So like a clanging
noise.
Clanging,
maybe. Yeah, that's a good description. Like a clanging. You think, what could possibly? And sometimes it's loud and close, and I really don't know what it is, and I just, and like I said, I'll forget that even happened, because I can't make any sense of it, so I just sort of like push it out of my mind. I have one more weird thing that happened, that our Bigfoot friend, researcher and friend Paul, who's seen them, he's convinced it's Bigfoot, because once we were inside at night, and I'd gone to bed, and Sam was still up, in the living room, and I had gone to bed, and I thought I was either going to sleep or had fallen asleep and woken up, but I heard stomping noises right outside my window, which is right by the front door. Stomping noises, like feet, like a big person stomping with boots. And I was like, why is Sam outside in the middle of the night stomping at the door? And I started calling to him, and he answered from the other room.
Right.
And I said, if you're inside, at the door, because nobody lives around here, at all. And it was dark, pitch dark, no light or anything. And he was a little afraid to look. We waited probably too long to look. And he finally looked and didn't see anything, but stomp, 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 right at the door.
That's
and again,
weird.
Even though that happened and it was scary, like we just forgot. I mean, I just kind of forgot about it, go on with things, But
even when you think of like the wild animals that you'll have around there, they're not going to stand there next to your house doing that, are they?
No, they're afraid. The biggest animals we have are bears, and they're wusses. They're very afraid of us, and I mean, we see them occasionally. And once they see us, they just run. There's no reason, and they wouldn't even stomp. Why would they stomp? Like bears don't stomp.
No.
And the other thing we have is deer, and the deer aren't as afraid of us, unfortunately. They come in the garden all the time and just eat my garden in front of me, like really cheeky, but the bear keep away, and they're afraid of us.
Are they brown bears? What type of bears?
They're brown bear. They're black. They're black bears. We call them. Some of them are brown, but we call them black bears. And not grizzlies. God, grizzlies are a different story entirely. Thank God we don't have any grizzlies out here. I wouldn't live out here. I don't think they're grizzlies. Yeah. No.
They're a bit. But really, I thought you do. I suppose are they a bit further north in sort of Canada?
Yeah, they're farther north. Yeah, yeah, and they're right a lot, definitely farther north. And like some of them are in Montana. In some are in the interior, farther north, but. I don't remember if Washington State has any. That's the farthest north in the U.S. on the coast, and I don't remember. Maybe like to the east in that state they have them. I don't think they have them near the coast there, but yeah.
But I know that Bigfoot is supposed to communicate by bashing a log against a tree.
Exactly right. Or like they think the metal noise might be that they seem to like they've gotten hold of like metal pipes of ours and they like to use those and bang on stuff with them. That's the theory.
Well,
So,
I know that dolphins like the sound of an anchor being dragged along the bottom of the ocean because some divers. Yes,
weird.
And there's a diver that befriended a dolphin, and it was sort of send the dolphin into ecstasy when he heard something metallic being dragged along the bottom of the sea. So that's what
I wonder if it's like the resonance of the metal or something.
Yeah.
It's like I like cats.
Sonar.
It's a lovely sound. I don't know of anybody that dislikes that sound of this.
What sound?
Which is a cat purring, which is it's like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's nice. But the thing is, with these sightings and things, what bothers me is when Deborah Hatswell, who she's supposed to be on tonight, but overlooked. We won't rub it in, will we, Deborah? No. But she, you know, the amount of sightings we're getting in the United Kingdom, which is a very populated country.
That's surprising. I know that's a lot more surprising than out here.
But with the chickens, I mean, I guess you get foxes around where you are. Do you get foxes?
Yes, we get foxes. So, I mean, we do get foxes. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know about those. Yeah, the chicken deaths in our case being that mysterious. But I don't really have information on the livestock around here. Like I said, there isn't much. So I'd have to, you know, because mostly this is heavily forested, so it's like not a really good place for livestock. But there are places not that far from here that I just don't know. I'd have to, you know, talk to people more. I haven't ever looked into that yet.
Yeah. When they killed your chickens, did they kill them? Did they take them away, or did they kill them and leave them?
Well, this is the one we just figured must have been a hawk, because I don't know, it was left and it was mutilated, like, and then, you know, and the other chickens just start eating it when it's left there. You have to move it.
We don't care about cannibalism.
Another time, this one was a little, we weren't really sure. Another time there was just a dead chicken all of a sudden on the road, really far from where the chickens stay in their run, you know, and in their coop. And we had this dog. So we had some dogs there, and the dogs generally kept predators away from the chickens. And so we didn't have a lot of other security. We had a high fence around them, but nothing overhead, you know, no netting or anything. And then they'd go in at night, but they weren't even closed in at night. So, I mean, fox could easily go in there and get them, but you know, foxes or raccoons or whatever, they'll go in the chicken coop, kill them all in there, you know, and eat them in there, or take some out or whatever. I mean, some of them, I mean, I think raccoon just kills them all. It doesn't eat them all. But none of this happened inside the coop. And, you know, so obviously it was taken from the run, and they do go in once it's dark, but it was dark. So we had, Sam and I had been away from the farm. We'd just come home. We were driving up the road past where, you know, the farm part is, up where we were living. And there was a chicken just in the middle of the road, just dead, like, but no signs of blood or anything, which was weird. And it looked like it had just been suddenly left there. Like, so maybe something killed it and was running off with it and left it. But our suspicion was that it was this new dog that we had that was a blue heeler that was always trying to get up the chickens and everything. And we were trying to train him, not to. However, why was there no blood? I mean, I guess it could shake, maybe just shook it. I mean, maybe the dog got it and shook it and left it there, but it was a weird place for it. And because not long after we saw the dog, she wasn't near it when we got there. But she came running to see us, and we looked at her. We looked at the chicken. We're like, "Did you do this?" And she kind of did that guilty like thing, like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But then again, she could have just been like, could tell our tone of voice was like, you know, that scary thing. That's like she was very submissive, you know. So I mean, we blamed it on her, but we also felt it was very strange, you know. And we also were like, well, we don't really know what happened. It could have just been that something was here, like a Bigfoot, and dropped it. I mean, but why? I don't know. Why would Bigfoot drop it?
But then why would Bigfoot have it? Because I would have presumed it's an ape type creature like us. We can't eat a bird with all its feathers on because it would choke us, because you've got to pluck the feathers out. Right. We had the dexterity to plug all the feathers out and then cook it. So I don't think.
They could plug. I guess he could have. That's why maybe he was trying to take it somewhere. But I mean, if it had to flee upon seeing us, why couldn't it fled with the chicken? I don't know, you know.
It's strange. There's another. Shall we go back into chat now? Because
Sure.
now we've got so many here, so please excuse me if I miss some out. I do apologise in advance. Well, we do this is V again. Come on, V. There are many. Are there any, hang on. That's it. Are there any reports of these Bigfoots plaiting things?
Planting. I think that's supposed to be planting things.
Things like the Mongolian and Russian
Masters.
Masters. I don't know anything about that.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't know anything about that either. Sorry.
Because, there we got another one here. This is quite interesting. We've got here. Where are we? These sightings are on the increase, Louise. Some tribes had Bigfoot as their totem animals, but other tribes were terrified of them.
Yeah.
Yes, is that right? I don't know if you know about this, Shannon, but I worked with a chap who worked in Canada for a long time, and he said that the Indians, when they make a totem pole, they select a tree, and then they tell the tree by some ceremony next to it, they want that, and then for a totem pole, and the tree dies, they don't have to chop it down. I don't know how true that is. He seemed a very truthful sort of chap, but he said
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, he said that they're very clever people. You don't realise how clever they are. And the good thing about the North American Indians is they keep their traditions going. They may drive fast cars and
some of them, unfortunately, a lot of them don't. You know, I was going to say there was a story also in this book, and there's pictures of. Let me just look at them because I want to see what year that was supposed to be. It's on the so there's a tribe called the. Not even sure how you say this. Yokut, maybe. Yokut. So this is somewhere south of us, too, down in the San Joaquin River Valley or something. That area. I don't know that area, but it's in the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is a huge range. So I can't really pinpoint this, but they have ancient cave drawings of Bigfoot in Bigfoot groups of them, like a Bigfoot family. There's a whole bunch of cave drawings, rock paintings, I should say, not cave, and they're still there. So there's pictures in here. They're not the greatest pictures, but you can still kind of tell because they're in black and white and that. But they're still. I think I'm trying to see what here's what they think the drawings were made around AD 500. So I mean, Bigfoot sightings were happening back then, so that's a long time.
Yes, because talking about tribes, I don't know. I guess you've both heard of an ancient tribe in Britain. Have you? That was in Norfolk called the Weatherfockawi tribe. They were very and they used to go through these long reeds, and they had this ceremony where they stood on each shoulders, and the bloke at the top would look around and shout, "Where the fuck are we?"
Yeah.
No, it's a terrible joke. Right now.
I want to say V. Okay, V corrected. Said it. He meant like plaiting hair. Right. Like we call that braiding over here.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. I've heard of. Paul knows about that. He said that's something they have been known to do on sheep. Not sheep, goats.
Right.
Like the goat beard. If the goats have a beard, if you find a goat with a braided beard, then it's probably Bigfoot.
Bigfoot's been at it.
Because I don't, unless somebody's playing a joke on somebody about it, but I don't know many specific examples of it. But Paul did say that he heard that's a thing they do, which is, whoa.
Right.
Louise Wilcox says, yes, Robert, there are tribes also saw giant people in ancient times too.
Right.
In the times before the moon. And Robbie says, before the moon, well, that's David Icke territory and also North American Indians, as well as people in Africa, ancient tribes there, told of a time before the moon. Because the moon is very peculiar because it's the only... and some people say it is artificial. It was sort of dragged there, but that's another question. That's a sort of that was David Icke.
Well, it might not be dragged there. It may not be a solid object. No. That's the other thought. It's that it's gases or like a hologram or something. Yeah. And like there's some photos showing clouds passing behind it. like you can see through it, and it is weird it is strange that we see the moon at all times of day and not the sun, somehow. Like, I mean, I've tried to think about that. Like, it's just the moon really interests me because I swear that the patterns change and it's not what they tell us.
Yeah.
Like, I've noticed weird things even just recently. And not to get, to too much TMI, but like my lady cycle, was pretty well synced with the full, full moon.
Yeah.
And I noticed last month that I was like late for by a week, but then I realized it was because the moon hadn't come back out again.
Right.
It was like a week off.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at any charts or anything, but so then it came, this week when the moon was waxing again and it was close to full is when it came. But I was like, why is it a week longer this time? I don't know. I mean, I've just noticed I can't, it doesn't seem to match what we're told about it. I've noticed weird things with it in the position and the sky.
I sat one night, I think it was back end of last year, and I could see through the trees. I could see the moon, and I was watching it, and I thought, wow. And then a bit later on, the light was still there through the trees, and I went to go close the door, and when I looked up to the right, the moon was there. So I've no idea what that was I was looking at.
Oh.
I thought that was the moon.
Oh.
Right. There's a film on YouTube called In Search of the Great British Eccentric, and there's a English, well, he wasn't English, Irish actually, half Irish, comedian called Dave Allen.
Dave Allen, yeah.
He did a very serious documentary in the early 70s, and it's actually on YouTube, In Search of the Great British Eccentric.
Okay.
And on there's a chap who was a scientist who said they can't get to the moon. He said because the moon is a gas. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And he said the rocket goes up, goes sideways, and he reckons they landed in the Himalayas or somewhere. And he said they can't go there because the moon is a gas.
Wow.
And the moon is odd because it's supposed to affect our tides, which I don't believe.
Right. Because I mean, it does seem to have a relationship because, I check the tides all the time for surfing, and I go out and I notice that, it's when it's a full moon, the tide differential is greater.
And did you
so I don't know why, but
And did you know on a full moon the police have more staff? They used to. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, they do.
Because there's more people go a bit bonkers on a full moon.
Right, the lunacy problem.
Yeah,
that's true. The rates of crime are higher. I mean, on the one hand, you could contribute. You can just say, well, there's more light by which to commit crime at night. However, there's supposedly more violent crime, or other things besides just the fact that it's easier to see. I mean, it's easier for people to also see somebody coming, if it's full moon. So I don't know if that really helps criminals that much, but it's that there is some kind of influence, I think, and this could be because maybe it is like Dave Icke says, like a satellite of some kind. I mean, they even call it our satellite moon, but I mean, a satellite in a different sense. That's something that maybe is sending radio frequency influence or spying on us or something. Or, the most fascinating thing I found, I know this isn't a whole, this show isn't about the moon, but there's a really fascinating documentary called The Lost History of the Flat Earth. Most of which I think was on YouTube last time I looked. I don't know if it's anymore, but this was crazy. But it showed the moon that, okay, so the saying, as above, so below.
Yeah.
I think that's from the Bible. Well, there's a new take on what that means, and that the moon, the patterns on the moon, they're not craters or anything. But that's actually a map, an imprint, like an X-ray photograph of our Earth. And somehow was photographed onto the surface of whatever the moon is, right? It's with using X-rays somehow. And so you can actually, there's a way to see the map of a flat Earth, completely shown in the moon surface, and more. So it looks like our flat Earth, may be bigger than we know of. Right. And so you can see the continents as we know them in the right patterns and everything. And then you see something beyond that. So that's totally bizarre. I don't know what to make of that, but I thought that was a really interesting theory anyway.
It's interesting because, I mean, Louise says here, yes, many old stories are told by native Indians of a time before the moon.
Yeah.
Right.
And Paul has said here, Robbie, not Paul, what's it about? Robbie Green says, in America, there are approximately 7 types of Bigfoot, each to a specific location. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yes, I think that's about right. Yeah.
And apparently there are types with red glowing eyes that the natives are more wary of.
Yeah.
Now, that reminds me
of
Red glowing eyes. Jack in London, because he's supposed to have had red flowing eyes, didn't he?
Who?
Spring Jack.
Yes.
Spring Jack, yes.
Yeah.
I guess you've heard of that, Shannon, haven't you? Spring Hill Jack? It was around the Victorian time.
Like Jack the Ripper?
No.
This was a character that jumped over rooftops and things. And it was so many people seeing this, whatever it was, and women were quite distressed by it. They said he had eyes that were bright red, and we did a show on it, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and even what was it now? Duke of Wellington went out on his horse trying to hunt the thing down. That's how it was. But it was during the Victorian times, and also there's been some modern sightings of.
There's been spates of it. I think it was 1950s as well. There was a spate of it.
Yes.
Basically, it was leaving cloven hoof prints up like church roofs and things like that, and it was just seen leaping up in the air, or it'd land in front of somebody and then just take off again, and it was bouncing all over the place, whatever it was. Some said it was a gargoyle, some said it was a demon, some
yeah. Well, that actually reminds me, I do have another Bigfoot story when we have a moment.
Yeah.
A site that so go ahead. I don't know, Chris, you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say that there's this, we said last week about these creatures in Cornwall, and there's a famous photograph or series of photographs that were taken at the turn of the last century, about 1890s, 1900s, of these footprints. And people said, oh no, they're rabbits, and thought it, but no, they went up the side of houses, over roofs, and down. Rabbits can't jump. And it's quite interesting. But when you see the big beast, you always get, I've said this time and time again, you always get this smug get with the Professor Plonker with and of course, I mean, if you look on my BitChute channel, the last week's show was on there, and someone's put a reply there, and I like to reply to, and I do apologise if I occasionally miss your comments, but I think it's politeness to always reply to a comment. Someone's taken time to comment, I like to reply, and I don't get that many comments on BitChute, but I did, and someone said, what is it? Bigfoot does not exist. So go and have a look at the comment for last week. I didn't answer it because my attitude is, I'm sorry, no.
Well, it's a pretty arrogant comment because like, how do you say that, right? You don't know.
They said, you know, if they said I don't believe it, you know, but I respect your
different, right?
Fine, you know, I'd reply to it.
Exactly.
Now this is an interesting one. Now, where are we? We've got one here. I always say if they're in the UK, they'll be travelling the coastlines like our ancestors. That's an interesting one, Beamer. That is very interesting. But we've also got Michelle. Come on, Michelle Salisbury. My computer's on a go slow tonight. Sorry about this. Michelle Salisbury says, has anyone ever seen a family of Bigfoots all together at the same time? Well, there was that story that I told earlier, that chappie who broke his leg in that accident, and he had a family of Bigfoots around him. But you don't see like young Bigfoots and females. Although with all that hair, how do you tell whether they're male or female?
Oh, there is that.
No, apparently they have breasts, the females.
Oh yes, because
that you can see,
Because humans, though, I think, are humans the only mammals where breasts are permanently out, whereas other animals they only come out when they provide milk for their offspring.
Well, that's not exactly true. There's teats on, there's udders. Animals that you milk that have like pronounced teats anyway, and the udders swell when they're when there's milk. but yeah, in most mammals, it's true. Like they don't really have these swollen glands that we would see, even when they're nursing. I mean, you think of, I've seen cats nurse kittens. You don't really see that. And I've seen seals. They nurse just from an inverted teat on the body. You don't see any kind of breast or anything.
No,
So, but yeah, and even other, I think, an ape species or like orangutans or monkeys or whatever, you wouldn't really see that either on them, I think, right? So it is interesting that to think that the Bigfoot, that's something the Bigfoot would be more similar to humans then.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Now this is another one from V. McCrinnan. Most apes just grab prey and break its neck or thrash it about, then bite it. That's interesting, right? And then we got Robbie.
Like me, fish and chips.
Yeah. There are reports that when the dogman cryptid moves in, they often displace the Bigfoot claim. That's interesting. I think we need Deborah Hatswell in for that one.
Yes.
And I think you know a lot about it as well, don't you, Deb?
Well, a bit, yeah. Not much as Deb.
Hi, a bit late today. Note from parents, please. As I'm dog-minded, get the feeling of being watched by something in the woods. Sometimes the dog just won't go in certain parts of the woods.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I think that's because dogs pick up on energies.
Oh yeah, they would probably pick up on that, and they're really afraid of Bigfoot. So
yeah.
Well, V. McCrinnan's answer is Paul Green. Big cat or wild boar is the most likely dog spooker.
We have got an awful lot of big cat sightings lately as well.
Yes. But if you want wild boars, you just go tune into BBC. There's lots of boring.
That's true.
All
of them.
Yes. Yeah. Jeremy Vile is one of them. He's a wild boar.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, you remember him at all when he was over it? Oh God, Jeremy Vile. Oh
yeah.
I mean, the man. I actually can't listen to his voice. It's
no.
sort of angst or physically sick. If I had to induce vomiting, just show me a picture of Jeremy Vile or Cliff Richard, and I'd throw up immediately.
Yeah,
you know. And now it says it says here, this is interesting. The UK sightings are problematic. There's not the food required to support a population. They're being seen. Well, this is why we're saying that my personal belief is they are from a different universe or parallel sort of time slot. Because as Deb Hatswell said last week, when she saw Bigfoot near Birmingham, it was a sort of kind of intrigued in many ways. I incorrectly thought it put its hand out, but it didn't, and it was sort of as much sort of surprised as she was. Sort of,
right.
It was Lancashire, not Birmingham. When she saw it was Lancashire that she saw hers in.
Wow.
Was it Lancashire? Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was Birmingham.
No, it was Lancashire.
See, but remember, you see, I'm a southerner. Anything past
anyway, Watford Gap.
I've got the passport in order. I can't go up north, and I can't stomach Eccles cakes either. So that's it. No. So it says, but Michelle Salisbury, Bigfoot are probably more curious about us than wanting to cause us any harm, as they appear to be physically strong and could overpower a person with ease. You've got a good point. I mean, I don't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution. The reason why I don't believe it is how comes humans evolved but apes didn't? Why is our skin like tissue paper compared with apes?
Yeah.
Why is it we're not sitting here picking fleas from each other or up a tree having a conversation, swinging through the trees? I mean, if an ape got lucky and started to walk on two legs on the African savannah, it'd have been a tasty meal or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
No. I mean, there's so many holes in that theory. It's like Swiss cheese. So
yes, you're right. Where are we? Oh yeah, sorry, I've already read that one, haven't I?
You did do it.
Was it left for you to find Shannon? We found it here. Sorry, that's Robbie.
I think no, it was on about the chicken.
Oh, right, yeah.
Chickens will die of fright quite easily.
True, but this chicken was in a really strange place. That's what was strange about. Like, why would it have been out there on its own at night? It wouldn't have, because they're, these chickens weren't roaming out of their enclosures or anything.
Yeah.
So that doesn't. I mean, so that's but it could have died of fright still. But I don't know how it got there.
No.
So yeah.
We, as McCrinnan said, plating.
Oh, we already did. We went over that.
We covered that earlier. And we got here, not enough. Robbie Green said, not enough to provide 20 pounds of flesh every day. They would be seen far more often if that was the case. This is why I say they're from a different dimension.
That's what he's on about when we were on about.
Well, I don't know though, because bears exist in our dimension and they're huge, and they seem to. I don't know what they eat to be that big. It seems impossible to me. Like, because I mean, they might. I mean, obviously they eat small animals. I think they eat squirrels. And I mean they don't, but they eat berries and and nuts and whatever. But there isn't. It just seems crazy to me. I don't know. I mean, I wonder too. Sometimes I just wonder about a lot of things, but like, humans, like how much we eat, if even we need to eat as much as we do, maybe we aren't eating the right kind of foods, enough nutrients in them, or we're not digesting them well, or because there's these accounts from the 1800s of the Mormon pioneers going out west with a few, like with some flour, to make bread, and like some dried meat and some cows with them to milk. And that's it, and they do. I mean, it's amazing what people seem so much hardier than us and so much more capable of enduring really harsh conditions and not eating as much food, and I just think that because when I think of like bears and Bigfoot, I think of like, well, how much I eat and how my size, and it's not that I'm not that big, I'm tall, but but I also know that I've had digestive problems most of my life, thanks to things I'm not going to talk about on the show, but have to do with needles that we were forced to take. And like, it's the poisoning and the inability to assimilate food, and our food being degraded. And so, people eat more and more and more. I mean, some of them get bigger, some get thinner. We're less tolerant to cold and heat, so the things that wild animals do seem impossible to us by comparison. So I don't know. I don't know that Bigfoot doesn't have enough to eat. We do know they eat mushrooms too. And, we also eat mushrooms here. There's some they particularly like, and they will, don't appreciate us coming and taking like the morels, or if they were trying to take them or something.
But apparently, is it grizzly bears and humans? I think the only two get tooth decay because we both eat honey.
Right.
Sweet, so they say.
But if you eat honey in its proper natural form and without being refined, which is it's very hard to get. I've been getting it now, but it's really hard to get actual raw honey. There's honey labeled as raw that's heated still. They somehow get away labeling as raw, even though it's heated way past what the hives are. And so once it's refined, it becomes a simple sugar, and it's not that, I don't think it's a direct effect. It's not a direct action on the teeth when you eat something like honey. It's the action in the body. I think that degrades the whole body and the health of all your bones, including your teeth. And so when you have like refined sugars that don't have all the enzymes and vitamins and everything in them, then, but yeah, I mean, maybe Bigfoot eats honey too. I saw a comment in here again by V that just saying, you're talking about in the UK not having enough food again. So yeah, maybe we have enough out here, not in the UK. So then that's right. So then how do you explain their presence there? I don't know.
But then look at the Kalahari Bushmen. They're people I've got the greatest respect for, because they're absolutely now they are very slim, and they go for miles, for days without eating. They're absolutely incredible people. They actually had top athletes go out there to do exactly what they did, and the athletes collapsed. They just couldn't handle it. And these fellas are just getting warmed up.
Well, milk.
I
think one secret there, because I've tested this myself when I had access to fresh raw milk. You can live off of milk.
Yeah.
Like you can live. People have lived off of milk. There's an account of a man living 50 years off of milk because he had an accident when he was a child where he burned his esophagus and he couldn't have any solid food, so he ended up just living off of raw milk.
Yeah.
And he lived to be, he probably lived longer than that. It was when it was written, he was 50 at the time, and he had his whole life been drinking only milk. And I've met people personally for years living off of only milk.
Yeah.
And I tried it for a month and it worked pretty well. I mean, I was a little bit, I ended up adding some eggs because I was doing hard outdoor work and I felt like I needed a little more protein. But again, it's like, I still think my digestive system's compromised. If it wasn't, maybe it would be different. But this whole villainizing raw milk, has to do with the fact that we could live easily off of it.
Yeah.
And things. Anyway, probably shouldn't talk about that here. I'm going to get us shut down again.
Everything we eat is processed, isn't it? So it's taking stuff out that we need or putting stuff in that we don't need.
Right. There's something on YouTube about the milk industry. I won't go any further than that. And it became allegedly. Well, it's actually on YouTube, so I probably can mention it.
Mm-hmm.
They became a lobby group with governments in America, especially. And I'm not giving any, shall we say, my view or anything like anyway. And they actually lobbied that milk gives us proteins, this, that, and the other. When some people say it doesn't, shall we say? But I'm not giving a point of view. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm careful what I've said there. I don't touch anything dairy as far as I try not to, although I do slip up occasionally. Have cheese.
Apart from the butter that you got me buying.
And the butter I got you buying. Yeah, that Cornish butter, that's nice, that, isn't it? It's lovely. Yeah. Get it from Lidl's. But the thing is that it was Kim, Stranded in the Park, that mentioned this. I blame yeah. And you think about it, rabbits kept this country alive during World War II because all the rationing and that, people went out shooting rabbits.
Yep.
That kept and you could get rabbits in butchers until quite recently, actually.
Greengrocers, butchers.
Yeah. Now you can't. Now, isn't it strange? We had mixed mitosis.
I think they also still had lard, because the one danger of just eating rabbits is they don't have enough fat.
Yeah.
And there was something the Native Americans experienced here called rabbit starvation, because when they didn't get big game and the big game provided them with enough fat, then if they only ate rabbits, they would end up starving.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody else mentioned that, I think, on Sunday. But you think about it, they introduced mixed mitosis, so you couldn't kill the rabbits to eat them. And then you had milk. Had to be homogenized because they said that TB came from it. And all these different foods that were cheap and accessible. Like, for example, they said that seafood, this was, my father told me about this, in the 30s, they had outbreaks of typhoid, and it was from winkles in, cress, where they grow mustard and cress. It was from there, and also winkles, because winkles have got the worst poison you could actually think of if you get a rotten one, but you soon know if you get a rotten one. But it's everything that the working class people had to eat, that they put something dangerous, say, so for instance, milk, it was TB, so you had to have it homogenized. So you couldn't get it straight out.
I don't think there was. I don't agree with germ theory or the idea that this bacteria can, make you have TB.
Yeah, that's right. That's I'm covering for YouTube, but that's we got to be a bit careful.
Well, that's true, but they did. I mean, the point is they made us believe that it needed to be pasteurized, rather than it really. Maybe it didn't, So
well, I think we get reserve that for a Thursday.
Okay, right.
This brings me neatly onto the idea that I've got, is that I'm hoping to do planning a Thursday show on the radio, which will be from my own service on my website, so we can say what we want. Hello, I've got off. Hey, I'm back again. It's strange, isn't that? A little controversial. Off it goes. So there we go.
Wow.
pressing the buttons here, you know. But
anyway, sorry, I'll keep off the health topics.
Yeah, we better keep off of it because, quite honestly, we don't want another ban because they accuse us of things we don't say.
Yeah,
so, that's the most amazing thing.
I know.
Now VXRHSV sounds like a number plate, doesn't it? Maybe more Bigfoots will come out of tomorrow when there is a. Yeah, I won't read anymore because I don't want to get banned. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. You know what I mean. Yes, I think you got a point there. Very good point. Now it says here, only a pure carnivore would need 20 pounds of meat a day. We could feed them MPs. You know, if we found a captive Bigfoot, although that'd be a bit grisly, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely not pure carnivores. That's for sure.
They're hoping to, allegedly, I believe, they believe, hoping to open a portal to another dimension.
Yeah.
Yes, it does seem like that. And then we've got Mish talking about plasma moon. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. That's what it's called.
Yes, and it's got here, the moon is from Star Wars. Laugh out loud. What's happened to that planet, whatever it was, that's supposed to be passing this Earth? That's all died a death, hasn't it? Planet X.
Yeah.
That couple of years back. It's going to be returning or something.
Nibiru or something.
Nibiru, that's the one.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all died.
That could have been what I was looking at outside my window.
It could have been, you never know. This is Michelle Salisbury. She says, yes, I wonder how I won't read any more, Michelle. Maybe there were, yes, I agree there. But we've got to be very careful of PukeTube because you know, if I get banned again, they're going to take my whole show down.
Yeah, they are.
Right,
yeah.
Robbie Green says, exactly. What do you think a 600 pounds Bigfoot would require? 50, 60 pounds of vegetation. It would need to forage like a gorilla. Yes. By the way, I don't like Gorilla Glue. I'm going.
No, it's rubbish.
It's everything I've stuck with it's fallen to bits.
Sorry, comment on that topic. There are at least out here. There's a lot of forage food and the greens, edible greens. A lot of edible foods out here. In terms of like veggies, yeah. Even in the winter, there's greens you can eat.
Some birds can eat berries that we'd find poisonous.
Well, that's true. There's things like that too. But yeah, I mean, the goats can eat oak, poison oak, poison ivy.
Yeah,
I don't understand why.
That's stomachs that we've got.
That's one of the things I need to ask God about.
Well, we had a neighbour that had a goat. I think they called it Flymo to keep their grass because of a big grass area. Yeah. And how can I say this politely? The goat was very loving to everything. Even the paper boy, the postman got away, and it ate a whole clothesline full of washing.
Oh my gosh!
It fancied my mum when she went out to work with the lady, and I think it fancied me as well. I mean, it was, shall we say,
probably in rut. Then is what that's called.
Well, I think we should have bought it sort of like penthouse for goats or something. Or pour a bucket of water over it or something like that. I don't know, but it was. I would have called it Randy.
It's very hard to deal with the bucks, as we call them. You call them billies over there, but when they're in rut, they're insane. I have had to deal with those, and they smell really. That's when they start stinking. They smell like goat, like a really nasty goat cheese.
Yeah,
and it smells like for 100 feet around. Like from the.
I found it. This bloody thing when it looked at you, it's a real creepy looking thing. It was sort
of,
their eyes, though, isn't it? They've got like the
but it was amorous to everything. You know, I think if you park your car near it, I think that would turn it on a bit as well. I didn't have my smart car then, but if I would have had, I think bloody hell. Because yes, man in the parts, a bloke's got a Randy tortoise he brought.
Nice.
I had me cycle a little bit. They produce. You can have it with goofy teeth. You put the goofy teeth in. I'm cycling. I go. And I brought it along to, shall we say, keep it happy.
All right, I don't know what's happening to our show here, but
I don't know what's happening, but anyway, let's go back. Let's go back. We got here. They found the, you know what, in 2012. I didn't know that, Robbie. That's interesting.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Right now, VXRHSV. I wonder what that stands for.
Just call them. Oh, I can't. VX.
VX says, if you want to learn something new about the moon, go on YouTube and search for God Gev Lemasti. Sounds like something you get ointment for, doesn't it?
It does.
I
do actually need to write that down.
GODGEV LAMSTE.
I need to check that out. Just leave it up a second.
Okay, I'll leave it up there.
So shall I tell my other Bigfoot story?
Yes.
Oh yes, please, because it saves me telling the naughty vicar joke, doesn't it? So
yeah. So
we cannot crack that one.
So my partner, this one actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the creature you guys were talking about that people said might be a gargoyle or something, you know.
Yeah.
Because and it also testifies to this idea that there are different types, you know, Bigfoot in different regions. So Sam and I are both from the East Coast here, and he was in Pennsylvania. When was that? Maybe 15 years ago with his dad. They were hiking and they sat on a bridge that was, you know, an old railroad bridge, abandoned one. There are many of those around. You know, so it's in the wood, near the woods and, you know, wilderness area. And they were having a little lunch or something, a little picnic. And suddenly they both saw this huge creature jump from underneath the bridge and the bridge was like, you know, high up, like, I don't know how high, but you don't, you know, he jumped like 20 feet, he said, in the air over to a tree and then like climbed down the tree and ran off. And he said it was huge and it was orange, covered in orangish hair.
Right. Yeah.
So the only thing he could think of was like some kind of orangutan escaped from the zoo or something, right? Like, but then he realized the scale afterward, like that it was much bigger than an orangutan. And the weird thing is, like, they kind of forgot, both he and his dad sort of like forgot about it. It was like really alarming. And then they sort of just, it was almost like their memory got erased. It was like years later, just when we start talking about Bigfoot, Sam was, you know, and recently he's like, oh, I saw one. Oh, that's what I saw, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny you should say that because a couple of years ago, I was out on the back of the bike and we got stuck in some traffic and there was a lot of like fields at the side of us. And as we're traveling along, following the traffic, there was when I'm on the back of the bike, I'm always looking round. And there was a gap in the hedge and there was like a natural pond and it was surrounded by like a wheat field. And there was something orange, orangutan coloured, crouched down at the side of the pond, but it was scooping water up with its hands and drinking it. And I was like, I told Deborah, and Deborah said that there'd been quite a few reports of orangutan coloured Bigfoot kind of creatures.
Wow.
Obviously, stuck in traffic, nowhere to pull over because it was just there wasn't even a verge to pull onto.
Yeah.
We couldn't even pull over and go back and have a look. Always happens, but yeah. Because I said, what could it have been? Because it was red, sort of red.
Yeah. See, and then I confirmed, you know, with my Bigfoot researcher friend that there is like a tribe of these orangey colored ones, you know, that are and they are in that part of the country here that other people have seen them. So, yeah.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. I mean, V. McCrinnan says, I've collected 1,000 pounds of high energy protein packed seaweed in under 4 hours harvesting. So Bigfoot would have no trouble. But if you're in Bristol, that is not up the road is Sellafield, a couple of 100 miles. That's the most radioactive sea. So probably you glow in the dark.
Well, that's something that might not be true as well.
Yeah. Oh yes, we said that.
So
yes.
I don't know. I think that's a scare thing. I actually, and we've you know, and there's this whole kelp watch thing on our coast, and supposedly our seaweed should be radioactive by now. Like they test it, and it, because of Fukushima and everything, and it isn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And at
You
the
make
same
lava
time,
ring.
the other thing about seaweeds is they actually help you detox from heavy metals and I think from and radiation.
Really?
So, yeah.
Mind you, you wouldn't want the seaweed from the Southend on Sea. Have you ever been to Southend on Sea?
I've been to Southend.
Oh yes, it's well, they say you leave a piece of you behind. You leave a piece of you on the bottom sole of your shoe because there's lots of doggies around there that leave things around the path. So one foot goes silent as you're walking along. But I've been to Burnham on Crouch, famous for Montgomery's wife died there apparently. And when you look at the place, you can understand the reason why.
Really wanted to then.
Yes, yes. But, you've been to Southend? Yes, it's like sort of Blackpool with depression, isn't it?
Yeah.
They say you can smell the sea.
Out of it.
That's right. When the burger shops are closed on a Thursday afternoon, you can smell the sea air apparently. But the sea is a sort of a browny, muddy colour, isn't it?
Yeah. Effluent.
They go swimming there.
I want to go back to the Bigfoot thing.
I'm sorry.
I was. Well, the other thing that it was a little earlier in the show. We were talking about, livestock getting mutilated and that, right? Well, it reminded me that one of these stories, the only account that I think I could find in this book anyway about that where it was a death attributed to Bigfoot to wild man was because they had seen Big Wild Man and somebody was left behind at the camp, or I don't remember, but he had so they have these fangs supposedly, right? They're supposed to have like fangs, Bigfoot, and there were the man was left there dead with fang marks in his neck. And the whole all the vampire stories, I mean, maybe the vampire stories, maybe all those attacks of cattle, with the marks on the neck and drain of blood, and people could be Bigfoot. I don't know. Just putting it out there.
That's
there's some kind of relationship anyway with, at least unless they were vampire. Maybe it was a vampire. I don't know anything about vampires, but
I know there was vampire bats.
Right, vampire bats. Right, that's true. They do. They can suck blood from cattle, right?
Yeah,
that's true. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but
well, you are, Shannon. It sounds like the weather conditions and the wildlife you've got, apart from bears, is very similar to what we've got here in Britain.
Yeah.
Very similar. I mean, your climate sounds probably a little bit harsher in the winter, but it sounds very similar.
Well, we actually, although we're in a rainforest. Not everywhere around here is rainforest, but we're in a rainforest. We actually get a lot more rain than you do. We get at least 60 inches a year. That's twice what you get. However, it's all during the winter. So it's, you'll get 2 inches in a day. And so that's like the whole winter is rain. And then we have all summer is dry. And so we have the wildfire threat because it gets dry and hot here.
Yeah.
So it is a bit different. We end up, this spring has been a bit more of an English spring for us. A little bit unusual. It's been colder longer with more rain longer. And even today is rainy and it's been cool and rainy again today and yesterday, which is like by now in July, it's supposed to be hot, and staying hot.
Same here. It's cooler. I've noticed July is now a lot cooler because it's generally July and August are the hottest months of the year. No.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we won't go into that, but this is reserved for the Thursday program, I think. Yes. But we think, no, I better not go there. But anyway, we've got Paul Green says, I will take my chances with astronomers and the cosmologists. We can do who you want. It's up to you. Says, now we've got Beast VX says, the moon is reflection of what we really live on. Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the Flat Earth movie. Basically, it shows us like a map of our Earth, what it really looks like. Yeah.
It says the moon reflects the Earth and more land, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says, then Dane MC says, vibes of Cosmos channel, similar to God Gevlemasti. That's interesting. So it's vibes of Cosmos channel. That's interesting. Now it says here, VX says, go for it, Robbie. NASA really know what they're going on about. Do they really? I thought NASA stood for
never a straight answer.
Never a straight answer, or the National Association of Space Actors.
Well, that's just for the moon landing.
Well, do you know what? Do you know in the army? I don't think they got this in the American army. It's called NAFI. Have you heard of a NAFI? Which is supposed to be, I think it's Navy. It's where they go and eat their meals.
Navy and Army.
Something like that. Yeah, we know it stands for no ambition, full interest. That's what they called it in World War II. It's what the conscripts called it. No ambition, fuck all interest. Sorry about the we're very foul-mouthed over here, Shannon. I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, I'm so shocked, offended.
Robbie Green, no, it would have a problem because everybody goes to the beach. They would be continuously seen, not the dozen reports a year.
Right. Yeah, your beaches over there would be a lot more crowded for the most part. Although I guess there's some that wouldn't be, but
yeah, there's the odd ones that are kind of cut off and people can't get to them. But the majority of beaches are like Blackpool. Yeah.
But if anybody crept up on a Bigfoot, as it sort of always say, having a lawyer's writ. There's a bit of a Cockney rhyming stain there. Or shall we say, having a dump? I think that's another thing.
Okay.
I mean, has anybody crept up on one and sort of frightened it? You know,
right.
I mean, mind you, their sense of smell would be a lot more intense than ours because was it a dog? I'm not sure how many. It's a phenomenal better sense of smell because humans,
more than those, isn't it?
Yeah, because we're blind and deaf. We're the puniest mammal there is. We can't run very far. Can't run very fast.
Can't run at all.
No. And I think they're the only mammal that, we are the only mammal that has to make weapons to hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We can't survive. Most animals use what they've got. Yeah. But we can't survive unless we make bows and arrows and spears. You know. It's got Mish says vibes of Cosmos and Divergent. Now it says Dan MC says a cool book called A Plea for Flat Earth and the Moon Smiles. Moon is a map of a larger Earth. Interesting. I'm learning a lot tonight. That's
yeah.
Now I've got to skip a few here because there's loads of people in chat. Hang on a minute. We've got V has come back. McCrinan says 11,200 miles of beach and only 20 miles in total alongside humans. And if they're nocturnal, few will see them when they are near.
Well, yeah.
Yes, I suppose, because let's face it, we are an island. We've got the very large coastline, you know. But, so because was it you can't be further than I think it's 200 miles from the coast in this country.
No, 70.
70. Good heavens! Yes.
Yeah.
Now it says Robbie Green says that makes no sense. V. There's not the resources required to hold a population. The question then is, what are the ones are being seen? And what about their wives and children? You know, that's right. They got families. Now, Michelle Salisbury says, thank you, Chris and Shannon, for giving an answer and a detailed one into the bargain to my question. That's any time, Michelle. That's all right. You know, you never know. So here we go. And then we got here. Now, I think we can go on till the cows come about beach combing. What's this? Got here. Robbie Green says, the Bigfoot Debbie Hatswell saw was in Salford city centre, not exactly natural habitat.
Yeah, it was at somewhere called Buell Hill.
Yes, that's interesting. No,
I think next week when she comes on, she was going to talk about the Manchester Pusher, which somebody else already mentioned. All the hundreds of deaths around the canals and waterways in Manchester that have been unsolved.
That's interesting.
Very
because in Manchester there's a place called Canal Street, I think. Yes, and it's very for people gay area, and someone's got some snowpack and put it over the letter C.
Right.
That's true. Yeah. Think about it. Anyway,
I don't need to think about it. I know what you mean.
Yeah, this is Joe Weeks says there is more of the UK that isn't built on, although PPL don't think so. Yeah. It says Louise Thom says my friend told me of a Bigfoot going into a house, picking up and shaking a microwave, scaring two young boys. I think he would have done in Aberdeenshire.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be in touch with Deborah Hatswell.
I hope so. Yeah.
Nora. Christ, that's a bit shit scary, isn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, wouldn't like one coming at my house. Shaking a microwave. Yeah. Robbie Green says, "Yeah, that's in America, Shannon, not UK." What's in America, not UK?
I think that was about just the food and everything here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder. This because I've opened my mind to Bigfoot. Possibilities. It makes me wonder what other sort of legendary creatures might actually exist, especially in the sea, in the oceans, because oceans are massive. And like mermaids, for example. I actually I was looking at mermaids recently, kind of with that in mind, and there was a sighting as recently as 2009.
Yeah.
I think in Scotland. I don't remember, up, somewhere over your parts, and like several people saw this green-haired like woman.
Yeah.
Part woman, part like a mermaid in the water.
Well,
So, do you know either of you know anything more about that, or if there are people who are experts in mermaids, or if you know what selkies are? I'm really curious about selkies, the seal people. Those are my favorite. I like those stories the best.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about them. I know of them, but I don't know a lot about them, and I haven't really heard of any mermaid reports.
And so you're saying you know about selkies, but you don't know if anybody's seen selkies. Yeah. Because I'm like, I always like the selkie stories, and now I'm thinking, what if they're actually real? That'd be kind of cool.
Well, I always thought that mermaids were sailors that have been at sea a long time. I hadn't seen a woman for a long time. So
but that's the story we're told. But it doesn't seem that believable when they say they were seeing manatees, and that's what they were seeing. I mean, manatees are, I don't know. They're just you can't really see a manatee and look at that and say that's an attractive female or something.
Manatees are nice, aren't they? They're very
friendly. Yeah, they're very friendly. Yeah. I've been swimming with them actually in Florida.
Really?
Yeah. They let you pet them and everything. Yeah, it's really nice.
Is it like you only get them in Florida? I don't think you get them anywhere.
Yeah, just down in Florida. Yeah. Waters have to be warm enough, and unfortunately they all had scars on them from the boats, the motorboats, because they surface a lot really slowly. They're very slow moving, and they can't get out of the way of the boats, so they get the blades on their backs. Which is why a lot of the tour boats now have this protection around, like a fan, around blades and a fan. They have a protection around the blades of the motorboat. But of course, it's not really. I don't know how much they're doing with that still and trying to regulate it or anything. But it's just really sad because they are, Oh, the Orkneys. Robbie Green says selkies around the Orkneys. Right. I worked at a seal rescue center at the Orkney Islands for a month. I took care of seal pups, and I'm really into them. So I'm really involved in seals and the stories. But the Irish and the Scottish both have selkie stories, actually. But probably more so in Scotland, although the Irish have specific family names they say come from the seals, from the selkies. And I found out after I'd been really interested in the stories, I found out my Irish background comes from two of the selkie family lines.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's why you You're so interested in them.
I think so. Song of the Sea. Yeah, Song of the Sea. I've seen Song of the Sea, all the Selkie movies I've seen, most of the books I've read. But yeah, somebody else on here said that the mermaids aren't supposed to be very nice. And that's also true. I've heard that. I wonder if that's
aren't they sirens though? They're
sirens. They lure the
sailors
to their deaths and everything. There's some really fun old mermaid movies from the 50s, American ones. What are they called again? I forget, but they're really funny. I actually watched some of them not that long ago. But, yeah. But,
I noticed when we were on about things that live in the ocean, I saw that Joe mentioned the megalodon. Now I still say the megalodon exists. Just
Sebastian's father might
yeah.
Not the original one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, somebody mentioned Nessie, Loch Ness, right?
Yeah. Louise Thom said, we heard drumming coming from outside a local stone circle, tribal type drumming, then like hundreds of fireworks going off at once, but no colour spectacle in the sky. Nothing at all. Now, that sounds a little bit like, I won't bore people with it, but when I heard what I assume was fairy music, and that was, I won't go into it, but it was really the most beautiful music I wish to think of. I was intoxicated by it. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was fairy music. Now, it says here, this is really interesting, V. McCrinnan, and a lot of people into gardening, which I'm into, will be interested in this. If you plant morels in your veg and mushroom patches, they can prevent blight, including potato. I did not know that.
That's true. In fact, one way you can do this is you can do what they call mushroom logs. You impregnate the mushrooms with spores. Like you drill little holes and you can buy the spores, and you put them. You line your garden beds, any of your garden beds, with the logs, and it really helps it helps all kinds of plants because of the bacteria and everything. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, I know that with foot and mouth disease, we had a big flare up, so they said, in 1967, which was the year my uncle started a butcher's shop. It was not exactly a good time, but a flare up about 20 years ago. I think it was around about 2001. And the old farmers years ago, the real farmers, the ones that do things organically, they used to deal with foot and mouth by just having putting the cattle in a barn that's full of onions. And the onions would somehow draw the disease away.
Yeah.
But they dealt with it. That's what I anyway.
Interesting.
But, now it's quite interesting. Sebastian here said, hello, mate. Hope you're feeling a bit better. I hope you're not Tom and Dick as well, mate. And now it says here, Deb Hatswell mentioned last week that over 800 people have died somehow around the Manchester Canal system. Sadly, Chris didn't press her on that statement. Oh, sorry about that. I'm not saying Debbie's wrong, incidentally. Now, that is interesting.
She said she was going to talk about it next time she was on, so probably next week. I'll remind her.
Yeah, let's remind her that. We'll come to that next week. That'd be good. And it says, Yorkshire Rose says, I only eat once a day the keto diet. I tried that. I tried fasting, and some people can, some people can't. I can't.
Yeah, I had trouble with it too, honestly. I got way too thin. I was already thin, and then I had severe muscle cramps. I mean, that actually pulled muscles, like ruined my muscles.
Yeah.
Because what can happen is a potassium imbalance and sodium imbalance, which I already had low sodium and potassium levels. So it lowers both. And even though I was supplementing that, it wasn't enough. And so for me, I just I think it could be good temporarily, and I think it's good. The lesson for me is I think it's good to actually have people don't have enough fats or good fats in their diet, and that helps you get those fats. But I think for me, I needed some carbs, and some people need more carbs, and I don't doubt that some tribes and groups have lived that way, and that it works for some people. But I think we're so altered now that you kind of we have to work with what we've got. And you have to just, you have to listen to your body and whatever makes sense for you that feels good for you,
Well, I was a teaholic. I'd drink nothing but tea.
Yeah.
And, when chap in the health food shop, Miles, said,
Yeah.
how many cups of tea do you drink? I said, about 10 or 12 a day. He went, what?
Oh my God.
And my blood pressure was through the roof.
I would
He said,
be.
cut it
Yeah,
down to 2.
that's a lot of
And
caffeine.
no wonder my blood pressure was through the roof. And I actually
Yeah.
cut it right out. You die for 3 days because your body is craving
Oh yeah.
for the fix of tea. But now I just have 1 cup of tea in the morning. And that does me. I don't have any more.
Yeah.
And I drink rooibos tea for the rest of the time.
Right.
But I did cut it straight out, and I can go without tea now. It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
It says here, Kalahari Bushman, £90. Bigfoot, at least £600. Yeah, you've got a very good point there. Kalahari Bushmen, I mean, they are very skinny. They're very, well, I say skinny, they are bloody fit, let's put it that way.
Small. I mean,
they're small and they look like athletes. They're very athletic, you know. Sebastian Moran says, on the cattle mutilation scenario that Chris mentioned last week and Deb talked about, the big cat situation, which I thought was very interesting. Yes, Deb, what she was saying about big cats was very interesting. Yes. Paul Green says, plenty of squirrels near me for predators to eat. Yes, I hope they're not the red ones. They're the grey ones.
They're protected out, the red ones.
Yes, the grey ones. Well, nobody knows how they got here. They reckon it was some sailors. I've got them over. Yes. Do you want them back, Shannon? We've got loads of grey squirrels over here.
I've got squirrels at the feed.
Really? Now, Sebastian Moran, there could be more than big cats and humans involved, though. Yes. Now, that is quite an interesting point there. That really is. Now, let's have a look down. Just V. McCrinnan says, in the UK, grey squirrels are eaten too. Yes, Survivalist Dave tells you how to catch them.
It does, yeah.
Two penny pieces. Was it peanut butter? They can't resist peanut butter. But I like squirrels. They sit there. I like all animals. They're nice and furry. They're friendly, you know, and they don't harm you. I mean, and apparently in Letchworth, they have black squirrels there. It's the only place in Britain, I think, where they have black squirrels.
I've seen pictures of black squirrels. They're beautiful, but never seen one.
Yeah. And it says, Yorkshire Rose, a friend of mine raised on a dairy farm, had milk straight from the cow, and she never had a childhood illness, nor needed antibiotics.
I can believe that.
Yeah. That's quite. That's interesting. Because apparently there was a chap did a study of dental dentistry in the 1930s, and he found that in Switzerland, in those days, there was sort of like remote hill tribes that drank only cow's milk and that, and they had fantastic teeth.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I was saying I don't think it's the act. Like we're kind of misled about how our teeth rot. Yeah. It's not because of the action of the acids or whatever directly on the teeth. It's just an indicator of the health of your whole body.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is why when they used to buy slaves, they check their teeth first to see if they're healthy. You know, but this is like, you probably heard of Weston A. Price and that foundation and that, that dentist who went, or dentist/anthropologist who wrote a book about, teeth and disease and, and diet, and, went around all of these different cultures and noticed that, indigenous cultures who had not been influenced by the westernized diet yet had perfect teeth. And then they didn't brush their teeth. They didn't go to dentists. They didn't have dentists, but their diets were, pure diets that nourished them, and they didn't have the diseases. The bad teeth go along with bad health. And, because the only reason we have dentists is because people want their teeth to look good. We want to look like we're healthy. So we have this illusion of health that's not real. We wouldn't fix our teeth, if our bodies weren't failing us,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And Britain is said to have the worst dentists in the world. Yes, I think we do have.
Well, that's
I
why we
remember
say you
the
have the
school
worst
dentist.
teeth, because it's not that you're less healthy than us. It's that you don't have the dentist, or maybe you can afford that. I mean, Americans have amazing teeth, but they all spend thousands of dollars on dentists. I mean, their teeth are fake. Mine are fake, some of them.
Yeah.
You know, and
Look at Donny Osmond.
yeah, like those
His
aren't
choppers
real. It
so
doesn't mean
white.
they're healthy. It's an
You
illusion.
need to wear sunglasses when you talk to him, you know.
Yeah, yeah, they're a little too. They look a little too good. It
That's
doesn't
right.
really look good when
Yorkshire
you're
Rose.
aging, right?
Well, you could back this up because Yorkshire Rose, I think, is in Canada, and she says 300 million acres of wilderness in US for wild animals.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. Another
Probably,
thing,
yeah.
it says here, goats can climb trees. Weird little buggers, goats. Especially that bleeding Randy one that lives at the bottom of the road. Now
Yeah.
it says here, Yorkshire Rose says Bigfoot eats nuts, grubs, tubers, vegetation, as well as meat.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And I dread to think what would happen now, but if he eats junk food, what will happen to him, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Wouldn't be healthy, right?
Right. It says here, goats. Louise Wilcox says, says goats are a satanic animal, hence the strangeness of them. Yeah, that look that they give
They
you.
are you. I mean, I wonder. I feel I worked with goats, and I have a soft spot for them. I wonder. I feel like it's not really their fault. They're used in satanic rituals.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd feel bad saying, like, I feel like they're probably innocent in themselves. And they are. They're very sweet. You know, they'll lie down with you in the field, and you know, like just accept you as like. I mean, they're very docile and sweet. I mean, it's just when the billy goats are in rut that they're a little out of control. You know, but a lot of animals are like that when they're in rut. And I don't know. I feel like that's not. I don't know. That's my take on it. I don't know a lot about the history of that, honestly, but.
Is it right they keep giving milk?
What's that?
Is it right the nanny goats continuously give milk, whereas with a cow they have to take the offspring away, don't they?
Yeah, that's interesting because they do that with goats too. Some people do it more often than others. Some people keep their goats in milk longer than others, because once you stop milking, they'll stop. But I've heard of people keeping a goat in milk for 7 years.
Right.
Without having to have them kid again. I think it's a bit cruel to make them kid every year, which was what they were doing on the farm I was on. It's because then I mean, basically part of that just comes because that supports the meat industry, you know, like, so you have the kids, some of them end up as, I mean, the boys mostly end up as meat because you only need like one billy for so many does, you know. So but it's hard. It was hard to separate them and to sell them off. And I wouldn't want to, if it were my own goats, I would probably just try to keep them in milk as long as possible and not have to do that.
But you said they have a rutting season, but one this woman had, I think, is in season all the bleeding time.
Well, no, there's a difference. I mean, they're probably a bit randy all year, but not so much, not anything like the fall and the autumn. But
this one, I don't think it was ever. I think that was about the only thing you'd think of, really.
Yeah.
So not even a cat was safe when he was around. Now there's a weird one here from Josh Blackburn. It says here, prepare Deborah Singleton, prepare to learn about the crater Earth.
I shall.
Yes.
I think it's one of these that I've written down that's going to tell me about that.
Okay, interesting. And we got here, Robbie Green says Bigfoot produce a large electromagnetic field, which can affect the human brain. Ghosts do as well. That's something with Sebastian, I believe, is a professional. He was a ghost. He used to sort of set up all the equipment and that, and the ghost watches and that, and they do. Ghosts produce electromagnetic fields.
Yes, you can measure them, right?
Yes.
Well, humans do as well. It's just very subtle. I mean, everything's electromagnetic. Basically, all life forms have a field. But maybe they are able to influence it differently or more powerfully, or influence with us with it. I don't know. I mean, I do know there's a smell associated with Bigfoot when they are around.
Yeah,
that it's like a skunk.
garbage.
Yeah, and sometimes people do have it does have weird effects on them and their minds. Like they feel like, for example, apparently they can have the power to make you feel very afraid and unable to move forward and move past like an area where they don't want you to go.
Yeah.
And so you feel like there's like a blockage there of some kind of field. So maybe that is electromagnetic.
Yeah.
Strange, isn't it? Now we've got here, Robbie Green says, the skunk ape seen in Florida, Shannon.
Well, that is the skunk smell is what they describe. And that happened to us once out here, actually, when we were for me, when I was mushroom hunting and hiking around, there was a skunk smell in the middle of the afternoon, and I just saw no signs of a skunk at all. It was very strange. So I don't know. I mean, because I've smelled skunk before, and then there's the skunk, right? And it usually isn't right in the middle of the day either. So a little bit weird.
I'll tell you the worst one is fox poo.
I know that. That's pretty terrible.
Got in my car, I had to disinfect the whole car out.
I did that at Sherwood Forest recently.
Gosh.
I tell you something. Even well, I was using the old Domestos and everything, and even that was like almost coming out with a white flag, giving up. Oh, what a stink!
Yeah,
it's terrible.
This is V. McCrinnan. No, Chris, this is nomadic seasonal harvesting, but you can live that way all year round. I suppose it was that beach thing. I suppose I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to have to get off. I'm getting kind of very hungry here.
Okay.
I understand.
But and I have to have some things this afternoon.
We're getting close to a time now.
I think it's probably, I was going to say, you might want to wrap it up anyway, right?
It says here, Robbie Green says, there have been reports of Bigfoot sexually assaulting cattle.
That's a bit worrying.
That's a disturbing thought.
It is, yeah. Leave you with that.
Yes, but there's loads of them. Anyway, thank you. I'm terribly sorry for everybody that has put some fantastic comments in the comment section, but remember they are read afterwards, so don't you worry.
Yes.
Thank you very much for commenting, and I'm so sorry I can't read everybody's out. I do apologize, but we'd be here half the night if we did. And great, got some great information in the comment section. Thank you very much, and also the comment section as well.
Yes.
And remember to go over to my BitChute channel, because if we get knocked off here, go to wallradio.com and you'll find out what's happened. So, because they're now censoring for all manner of things.
Yeah.
And also, remember, it's down in the link below in the comment section, my BitChute channel, and also Welcome All Radio. And there's also links to Shannon's website.
Thank you.
To Deb's website.
Yes.
And John will be back soon. He's
away today.
He's doing talks around near where he lives. So that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yep.
And the other thing is that to save us all having to play the violin and the, buy me a coffee in the comments below. So if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I'll be very much appreciated. It saves getting the dog out on a piece of string, outside the supermarket. I was playing a comb and paper, So anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Shannon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Deb.
Join us next week if YouTube don't ban us.
Yeah.
Same time, same place. And please remember to put the thumbs up, ding the bell, ding, 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 ding. See, so put your thumbs up. And also, you can subscribe to us, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just press subscribe. It doesn't say we will debit £6,000 from your bank account or anything like that. It's free. That's it. So I like free. So go free, because the more subscribers I get, the more it's better for me. See?
Yeah.
So, and also you can catch up on BitChute channel, because on the BitChute channel I show shows on there that we can't show on here as well.
A lot more exciting. If you think he's crude on this show, then
just check out BitChute.
Yes, and the Thursday show not this Thursday, but we're looking at possibly the week after. So who knows? So thanks for joining us, and remember, whatever happens, have a laugh and good night.
Good night.
Good night.